Alrighty boyos, welcome back once again to another video. How you guys doing, guys? Today we're going to be going over the best possible build and the best possible perks for the Mercury LMG. Something very interesting about this weapon is that this weapon actually allows you to reach the highest DPS in the game, which in my opinion makes it quite the unique weapon. So we'll be going over the best possible hero composition as well as the best possible perks that you can put on this weapon. I know a few people have done a few videos on this in the past few days, but I do want to get this information out there because I think it can help out a lot of people. Although I do, recommend that you make your hero loadouts as fun as you want, to your own playstyle. I do know that there is an audience that wants to know what the best is, and I try to get that information out pretty reliably. So let's go ahead and jump into the video, and we'll firstly start off by looking at the Mercury LMG itself. So if I go to my armory and my schematics, we can take a look at this weapon. I just maxed this out the other day, and I'm very happy that I did because this weapon's an absolute beast. You take a look, you have energy, crit damage, crit rating, mag size, and crit damage. That is the best possible roll that you can put on this weapon. The final perk says landing 5 hits in a row on a single target causes a small explosion, damaging enemies within a 0.5 tile radius of the target for 70 damage, or 70% damage. So that's a very important perk as well. If you do have a lot of husks that are grouped up, you'll be able to do a lot of damage with that perk. It's absolutely insane. Now, this is the best roll that you want to go with on the Mercury LMG, whether or not you're using this build, whether you're using this build or not, as far as the hero loadout is concerned, that is still probably the best perks that you want to take a look at. Now, this build is inspired by White Sushi, although not the exact same as his. We have Mad Tidings, Startup, Locked and Reloaded, Assault Damage, and Waste Not Want Not. If we actually go on over to Reddit, we can see White Sushi's original post about this in his finalized builds featuring the Immortal loadouts. Now, you click on this right here, you zoom in a little bit, and if we scroll down, it is right here. I don't know why it zoomed in so much. It's right here actually, the DPS King, the Mercury LMG. And so right here he has his own personal build. He's got the assault damage, the Mad Tidings, Survivalist, Waste Not Want Not, and Startup. Now I switched out his Survivalist because it didn't make sense to me personally, and I also switched out his Preemptive Strike. Preemptive Strike will allow you to get the most damage that you can possibly get as far as your weapon is concerned, but I decided to use frag grenades as well, so in your downtime with the Mercury LMG, you'll still be able to throw frag grenades and do a lot of damage with Keep Out. But yeah, he had Survivalist here that I personally decided to change, and I changed that over to Locked and Reloaded, and I'll explain why. So the whole idea behind this build is you want to go with Urban Assault, or Tactical Assault Sledgehammer, my bad. And with this character in particular, you do 225% increased assault critical damage. Now, I'm not sure if they fixed his tooltip or not, but Tactical Assault Sledgehammer does work. He was never bugged to begin with. It was only a tooltip error. He does, in fact, do 225% assault critical damage. You go down to his support team. Obviously we got Keep Out. To his support team, we have Mad Tidings from Crackshot. His perk says firing a ranged weapon grants 1 stack of Holiday Spirit for up to 50 stacks, and each stack of Holiday Spirit increases ranged weapon damage by 1%, but decreases weapon stability by 0.2%. The buff is removed on weapon swap or a reload. Now, with this in particular, by the way, I do want to point this out, is that the buff being removed on weapon swap or reload, I'm not entirely sure if throwing grenades will remove this buff. If it does, then you probably want to go with Preemptive Strike. And another thing I do want to point out is that with weapon stability, this is not a problem whatsoever on the Mercury LMG. What weapon stability does is it causes the weapon to kick upwards or to the left or to the right or whatever. It actually does not increase the bloom. Weapon stability is what causes the weapon to kick, which makes Crackshot a perfect standard perk because, well, no gun in this game really has that bad of a kick. Now we move on over to Startup from Bulletstorm Jonesy, a very similar perk, and both of these perks combine and make for some insane damage on LMGs. His perk says every shot increases ranged weapon damage by 1% up to a maximum of 25 stacks. Switching weapons or reloading will remove the buff, and this is basically Crackshot with half of the stacks and no downsides, which, weapon stability, what we just talked about, really isn't much of a downside. Now this is where White Sushi had Survivalist, which I personally didn't understand, and I swapped it out for this. and I'll tell you why. So, you know, Skull Ranger Ramirez, I think this is the same for Skull Trooper as well. Locked and reloaded, after reloading, it increases your weapon damage by 15% for 5 seconds. Now, the reason I like Locked and Reloaded is because after you reload with your Mercury LMG, you lose all of your stacks that gave you that increased damage. Well, with Skull Ranger Ramirez, you're able to still retain a little bit of that damage as you're shooting and regaining your stacks on your weapon. So you have 15% extra damage for 5 seconds as you ramp up your damage to get back to where it used to be. So that's why I went with Locked and Reloaded, so that whenever you reload, you don't feel like you're losing out on a lot, you know, a lot of damage. You know, as soon as you reload, you can get right back to it, and it's really good. And then lastly, we have Rescue Trooper Havoc as far as the assault perks go, and he increases your assault damage by 17%. Now for the, I guess, passive perk, you could say, we have Waste Not Want Not, which comes with the new Light Show Spitfire character, which you can get from the hero quest. And the reason that this is good is that it increases your magazine size by 30%. The whole purpose of this build is to build your stacks up. After 50 shots with your Mercury LMG, you're going to be at the maximum amount of damage that you can possibly do. And with this right here, you get the increased magazine size. After your initial 50 shots, you'll still be at about 155 bullets in your Mercury LMG, meaning you have 3/4 of your magazine doing absolute optimal damage, which is insane. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to show some gameplay in the background, and I'm going to go ahead and go over the pros and cons of this build. Although this is the highest DPS build in the game, of course it will have its cons. So we're going to segue on over to some gameplay and kind of have a general discussion about this build and this weapon. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. Alrighty boyos, so here we are at the gameplay portion of the video, and in this portion of the video I wanted to go over the pros and the cons to this build. One thing I do want to say about the gameplay in the background is that you might notice that my ping is pretty high and some of the enemies are kind of dying a little bit slower because of lag. That's because I actually captured this gameplay playing with my good friend Cylon. He's an Australian streamer over on twitch.tv, does nothing but save the world, and is one of the biggest save the world streamers actually. Absolutely love Cylon. He will be the first link in the description if you want to check him out. Me and him were grinding a mission just the other day, and I was like, hey, can I get some gameplay? And he was like, sure, you know. He was live streaming at the time. A really cool guy. Make sure to go check him out. But let's go ahead and go over the pros and cons of this build and of the Mercury LMG in general, because I do absolutely love this weapon, but I'm trying to be as transparent as possible and let you guys know the ups and downs of the build, so you guys aren't, you know, misled into believing something that isn't true. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we're gonna start off with the pros, and then we're going to segue on over to the cons, and that's basically the best way I can think of doing it. So with the pros, we have one of the best LMGs in its category. In my own personal opinion, I would probably call the Mercury LMG one of the best LMGs in the category. It pretty much competes with the Hacksaw. I don't know about the Terminator. Some people have been talking about the Terminator being really good. I personally do not know, have yet to use it, but what I do know is that the Hacksaw and the Mercury LMG are absolute spicy. This is one of the best LMGs in the category of LMGs. The next thing is that it has an insane magazine size of 205 bullets, as long as you have the Waste Not Want Not and the magazine perk on there that are legendary perks. It's a pretty good magazine size, especially for a weapon that you are trying to get the maximum amount of stacks on. Another pro is that it has the highest DPS in the game. This highest DPS is only obtained after you reach your 50 stacks. However, once you have shot your 50 bullets and you have reached the maximum amount of damage that this weapon can do, you are looking at the highest DPS in the game whenever you're using it with the specific hero build, with the specific perks, and after you do, of course, get your 50 stacks off. Now, the next thing is that you have seldom downtime caused by reloading. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't like reload speed for is because it decreases your overall DPS. If you're reloading more, chances are you are going to be doing less DPS, or at least in some cases, not in every case, but in most cases, you want to go with magazine size because you don't want to be not doing damage. But with this weapon, you have such a high magazine size that it's very seldom that you're not putting out damage. I think it's a great pro for this weapon. Another thing is that this is the best weapon in the game for high health enemies. Of course, if you're looking for some really good burst damage, then the bundle bus would be great, and the bundle bus is a very versatile weapon. You can use it on pretty much anything. However, with this weapon, if you're using it with the correct build, this will be the best possible weapon you can use for some high health enemies enemies like mini bosses and maybe smashers here and there. Another pro is that this is extremely effective at close range, the Mercury LMG. If you're looking for a very good weapon at close range, this is one of them. Just like the Silent Spectre, this weapon will absolutely shred anything that comes into its path. The last thing that I have on the pros list is that the final explosive perk that this weapon has allows for tons of damage potential if you have any husks that are around each other or any husks that are grouped up. It's very good. If you have a lot of husklings or just normal husks, the explosions are going to basically cause a chain reaction and cause an entire group of husks to die as long as they are close enough. So the final perk for the Mercury LMG is very good, although it's very situational, but I do find myself getting a lot of use out of it from time to time. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the cons, because yes, this is the highest DPS build in the game with these perks and with this hero composition, but there's always a catch. There are always cons to something that is this good, something too good to be true. So let's go ahead and go over the cons. Now, the cons are that this build needs this weapon needs a very specific build to be effective. The hero composition that I showed you guys in this video, that is the hero composition that you guys want to go with. Now, like I said, I'm a little bit unsure about the preemptive strike versus keep out. I'm not sure if using frag grenades counts as swapping your weapon. So, you know, that's a little something I'm iffy about. But everything else, this build that I showed you guys in this video is the absolute best build for this weapon. And if you're not using this specific build, the Mercury LMG can sometimes come off as a little bit underwhelming, which in my opinion is a very huge con. Another con is that the ammo is actually quite expensive. Now, I know I have some people in the comment section that will be talking about how much materials they have and how much they can craft this all day, but not everybody has the materials you have, and actually getting bacon for a lot of people can be a little bit annoying as they use them for traps, not for ammo. So it does have a pretty expensive ammo cost. Another con is that swapping weapons will reset your stacks. If you've already shot up to 40 something bullets with the Mercury LMG and you decide to switch to another weapon to shoot something from farther away and switch back, well, you just reset your weapon stacks, or you went ahead and reset your damage stacks, and you were going to be doing less damage from that point on, and you got to rebuild them. Another thing is that reloading your weapon will cause these stacks to reset. If you're not used to always emptying your magazine out always down to 0, then this could be a very huge con for you, as I myself sometimes do this on accident. But ever since I've been using the Mercury LMG, I've been trying to get in the habit of not reloading, so you do gotta watch out for that as well. Another con is that this weapon has a very limited range, resulting in less DPS from farther out. The reason I listed it as a pro for being really good in, close range is because this weapon is almost only good in close range. A lot of the times I'd be using this weapon at mid-range and finding myself it'd be very difficult to kill an enemy, but somebody with a Wraith on the other hand could just pull a Wraith out, pop somebody in the head, and then switch back to whatever the weapon, that they wanted to use. And lastly, for the cons, this weapon has an above average bloom that I've noticed. The bloom for this weapon is a little large, it kind of plays a little bit into the mid-range, high-range kind of thing that we were talking about earlier, but this weapon in particular does have a little bit of a bloom to it. I know that the Wraith has a little bit of a bloom as well, but it's a longer ranged weapon and you're supposed to be able to control your shots. With this weapon, it kind of just deters from the whole mid to long range playstyle. So you kind of are limited to a short range playstyle. You can't swap your weapons, you can't reload your weapons, your ammo is going to be very expensive, and you need a very specific build for this weapon to be really effective. So those are all the cons, and as far as the pros go, it's one of the best LMGs. The bullet magazine size is insane, highest DPS in the game, seldom downtime caused by the reloading, it's the best weapon for high health enemies, it's extremely effective in close range, and its final perk is insane against trash mobs. So those are the pros, those are the cons, and this is the video. So I hope you guys did enjoy. Like I said, I know a few people have done a video on the Mercury LMG, but I'm not entirely sure that they did this specific build, and I'm trying to get you guys the best information that I can. For those of you guys that are min-maxing, or for those of you guys that are just curious on how you can do the most damage, this video should help you guys out. But guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. I sure did enjoy making it. Had a lot of interesting discussions with Death Grip and with Nylik and with a lot of other people, helping me make this video and getting some good information out. If I did miss any pros or miss any cons, let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure to check out Cylon, by the way, in the description like I mentioned earlier. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.